What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Stokastic NFL DFS Thursday Night Football live before lock, presented by No House Advantage. My name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic, and as I am always, well, usually on Mondays, but seemingly always on these showdown slates, it's Neil Orfield, the Showdown Shaman, at PlayerQDFS on Twitter, here to break down this Buffalo-New England AFC matchup. How are you this Thursday evening, my friend?
I'm doing well. I got to say, I'm seeing in chat already people predicting a Patriots win. That's all I've been seeing all day. Everybody is predicting a Patriots win. It's kind of surprising me how many, like most games, we don't see that many predictions, but I've seen at least 5 or 6 people already today predicting a Patriots win. So make of that what you will. I don't know. That seems to be that the public sentiment is favoring the Patriots here.
Is it really?
I mean, among the small sample size of people that I've seen posting about it.
Well, hold on. It's not that small. We got hundreds of people filing in right as this stream has started. We got 600 people that are already. By the way, if you're here and you haven't hit the like button, I don't know what you're doing. We're already starting right off the bat with a little contrarian take because the Patriots are 3.5-point underdogs at home. But I think it's an interesting take. New England has a solid defense. They have ways to slow down this Buffalo team, but I don't know. Well, let's just start there. Do you think, chat, do you think the people who are going with this underdog narrative have some validity to their argument?
I do not. I mean, yes, they have some validity to their argument. Obviously, these are division rivals, but I'm still favoring the Bills. So I guess I don't really mean that. Yes, they have validity to their argument. I think the Bills are going to win the game, though. How about you?
Look, this is the way to beat Buffalo is to slow them down and turn them over. And when you have the 7th best rush DVOA, according to Football Outsiders, and the 3rd best pass DVOA, according to Football Outsiders again, you've got the recipe for success. But the Bills are the better team. I know this division is a mess right now. You could easily have 3, maybe even 4 playoff teams from this division, which is a crazy thing to think about. But right now, New England, this is as close to must win as you can get at this point of the season. So I do think this is going to be close. And when the lines came out and I saw that it was within a field goal or now just 3.5, I understand it. But I think the Buffalo Bills still are a better team offensively, and even that defense, which is not as good as we've seen overall, they still have a very solid ceiling as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're one of the best. Both of these defenses are very good. So it's definitely a good defensive matchup. I just think the Bills offense is so much better than the Patriots. And it's not like the Bills aren't used to bad weather. Bills favored by 4 in this game. I get it. It's in New England, but yeah, I think this Bills team is legit. I think it's a Super Bowl contender for sure.
I think this line, based on what I see, but based on the info I have, should be about Bills 5.5, -5.5.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the Bills are the 3rd best run defense and the 7th best pass defense, according to Football Outsiders. And the Patriots are the 3rd best pass defense and the 7th best run defense. I don't know what kind of riddle that is, but I figured I would mention that. They're very good. They're top 10. Let's talk about some actives, inactives here. On the Buffalo side, really the only thing of concern is the left tackle, Deion Dawkins, is going to be out right now. The New England offensive line is really beat up, but from the Buffalo standpoint, they're as full strength as we're going to see them right now. Obviously, they have some injuries, like Von Miller is not going to play anytime soon. But what do you make of this Buffalo team getting closer-ish to full strength?
It's interesting. I mean, everybody is talking about John Brown. I think John Brown is going to be kind of a divisive player on this slate. I think that he's probably the most interesting to me. I think you and I are on the same page how we're reading. We talked just briefly about this before the show. We both kind of think John Brown is not going to be part of the game plan unless somebody gets hurt or maybe there's garbage time. I think that he is essentially replacing Gentry, who I couldn't tell you anything about him except he was the guy who had been called up from the practice squad 3 different times. So he was no longer eligible to be called up from the practice squad without being signed to the active roster. So my assumption is that John Brown now is called up to from the practice squad as a replacement for Gentry, and he still is going to be, fourth on the pecking order behind, actually fifth. I mean, behind Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, and then Khalil Shakur. I think are all going to be the guys who are expected to play, and then if one of them gets hurt, maybe John Brown or maybe there's a blowout, John Brown will get active. But we don't really know. We don't know what to expect. Do you agree? Do we see that the same way?
Yeah, we're talking about a player who elevated John. They elevated John Brown from the practice squad. I can't believe he's just 32 years old. It seems like a decade ago when he had a 1,000-yard season in Arizona. He was productive a couple seasons ago for this Buffalo squad, but I think 6 snaps is like the ceiling for John Brown. Wouldn't be out of the question to take one deep shot one of those 6 hypothetical snaps, but you're asking for a very tall order. I think we have him projected for 0.5 fantasy points or something like that in our median projections based on our sims. That seems about right because a lot of times he just doesn't get in the game at all. I want to talk about the inactives on the New England side because I think those are more important to the way we're thinking about building our lineups today, Neil. We've got Isaiah Wynn, the right tackle, out. We've also got their swing tackle. Could you stay? I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry, Makajeski. I'm sure he knows out there, wherever he is. We got Damian Harris out at the running back position, and we got Jalen Mills at the cornerback position as well out for this team. Damian Harris and 2 tackles being out doesn't sound ideal for the running game, but you're probably taking some shots on Ramondre Stevenson anyway, right?
I'm definitely taking some shots on Ramondre Stevenson, the second highest projected player on the entire slate. They design plays, passing plays for Ramondre Stevenson. So he should get there just on, get there is a loose term, but he should get some fantasy points just based on volume, based on passing volume, PPR points. Ramondre Stevenson, I think is going to be, it's a great spot. It's obviously no, I shouldn't say that. It's a very tough spot against this Bills defense, but he should have volume.
It's a great volume spot. I think that's really hard to suss out when we're talking about the matchup versus the opportunity.
Yep.
Volume is king in fantasy football, and the opportunity for Ramondre Stevenson has been, dare I say, like vintage Alvin Kamara-esque right now. It's not an offense that scores like those Saints teams with Alvin Kamara, young Alvin Kamara, but it is a team that is willing to pass him the ball 7, 8, 9, 10 times in a game on top of the pretty much guaranteed workload on the ground. So even with tackles hurting on this New England squad, you're still going to take chances on Ramondre Stevenson because the volume looks good even against a tough defense. I really think that covers it. David Andrews, the center for New England, who has a thigh injury coming into this one, is going to be active. Anytime you have a center active for you, it usually makes the cohesiveness of an offensive line and an offense in general better. So that is a plus in New England's favor. Anything else really that you're seeing from an actives, inactive standpoint, or just a roster construction standpoint or a key matchup standpoint that really sticks out to you and maybe some narratives you want to go down in building some lineups tonight?
From an inactive standpoint, we also have Quentin Morris out. So I guess Tommy Sweeney could theoretically be in play. He's only 5,000 on FanDuel. What is he on DraftKings? I'm in the wrong. He is also cheap, I assume. He's 200 on DraftKings as well. So Tommy Sweeney, somebody who is going to be playable now. Obviously, don't play Quentin Morris. As far as others, we talked about the Patriots. Is kind of a mess for me. Like, I don't know what to make of these Patriots receivers. Jacoby Myers only played 29% of snaps in the last game, but I think he's going to be healthier. Probably going to play more than he's their wide receiver 1. So I think he's going to play more than 29% of snaps, assuming health. And I don't know exactly who that cuts into it, whether it's Nelson Aguilar or Kendrick Bourne. It's a little bit of a messy situation for the Patriots. Just looking through their game logs, I couldn't quite suss out who cuts into each other's minutes. It kind of seems like it's just randomly one player will go from 80% of snap share one game, and then the next game it'll be 30%, and I can't make out any reason for that. So it's a little bit of a mess beyond. I think Jacoby Myers, assuming that he is a full go, is still, he's going to be the wide receiver 1. I kind of read Devontae Parker, I think, still as the wide receiver 2. Do you see it the same way with the Patriots?
We'll get into this.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah.
But it is a situation where I'm almost tempted to ask the question, does it matter who the wide receiver 2 is? There are some ways that there can be some ceiling potential, and obviously if people fall into the end zone enough, they're going to be in optimal lineups. But this wide receiver core for the New England Patriots, maybe one player has huge upside, but deciding who that is going to be really, really tough. As we wind down just this opening segment here, I always ask this question. Look, the game has a pretty modest 43.5 point total, with even the Bills just at an implied total of 23.5 points. We're not used to seeing the Bills as a team, especially with Josh Allen at the helm, implied for this low of a score. What are the chances this game goes over this implied total of 43 and a half, touchdown or more, say 50 or more points here? Just off the top of your head, if you could give me a number probability.
I'm going to say 28%. I think that with this Bills offense, any game they can shoot out. So I'm going to go 28%.
See, I think this one is more to a 3 out of 10 or even 35%.
Okay.
You could even say.
So we're on the same page that it's higher likelihood than a lot of the showdown says. I mean, usually we're in that range of like somewhere between 15 and 30%, and you're going even above that. So you think there's a pretty good shot.
I do. Look at the quality of the offense. We're giving a lot of credit to the Belichickian defense over here, and it could be bad for the Bills, but I don't think I want to bet against them this harshly. And I'm definitely hand building some lineups that have real shootout potential for these lineups today. So just want to throw that in there. Always a fun question to close out this opening segment. We're about to go player by player, team by team. But before we do, just got to tell you about this awesome offer we have coming across our desk from BetMGM, guys. During the World Cup, this is one of the best ways to get into the action at BetMGM, because if you bet $10 on a pregame money line, you get $200 in free bets if any team scores a goal. I don't know if you're watching these games today, Neil, but there was tons of action, tons of goal scoring at the very end. It's a really, really easy way to start your bankroll off in the right way. And on top of that, you still get the risk-free bet as you sign up as well. Or that's actually a different one. Sorry, we'll get to that in a minute. But this $10, if you get any goal in the World Cup, not available in New York, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, or Ontario. And then after 12-4, I should say, it's only going to be available in Kansas, Illinois, in Louisiana. So now until 12-4 is a very good time to get into the action at BetMGM. All right, the Buffalo Bills, the road team, favored, but as we mentioned, not getting a lot of love in terms of their actual ceiling potential as a team because of the defense they're facing. Let's just talk about Josh Allen and how much Josh Allen is too much Josh Allen in this tough matchup, Neil.
I don't think there's a wrong answer. Like, I think you could play 100% Josh Allen, and that's totally fine. He projects so well. He projects the highest of anybody on the slate. He's actually not that far ahead of Ramondre Stevenson. Kind of surprised me how close they are in terms of projection. But I'm not going to try to play 100% Josh Allen. I'm going to try to limit myself to a max of like 80% Josh Allen across all my lineups, across both captain and util ownership. But if you wanted to go to 100%, I don't think that's wrong. If you want to get a little bit contrarian and just assume that, these receivers are going to outscore the quarterbacks on what should be a low scoring game because they're getting PPR points, I don't think that's unreasonable either. But my guess is I'll be around 70 to 80% Josh Allen in my lineups on DraftKings.
Okay, so we basically have him in the optimal lineup somewhere between that range, so that makes sense. But you're leaning towards over the field. Now there is a growing list of people saying, well, what if New England actually does get the better of this Buffalo team and we build to the narrative where we can maybe fade Josh Allen? If we're building multiple lineups, let's say 20 lineups, is it unreasonable to have Josh Allen in 0?
I don't think it's unreasonable. You have to accept that there's a good chance you're going to lose all your money. Like you're just accepting that risk. So if you're playing a $3 entry, you're playing a $3 entry. It's a 20 max. You're at risk of losing $60. So, you have to understand the risks involved. But no, I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that it is plausible that the Patriots win this game. Josh Allen still obviously has that rushing upside, but Patriots have a good defense, so it is certainly plausible, especially at his price tag. If you want to full fade him, I think that is one stand you could take.
Man, I just don't know how you really do that tonight.
It'd be tough.
Look, we're seeing him at a projected ownership of 70% of lineups. So 7 out of 10 lineups are going to have Josh Allen. I almost think that's not enough. I honestly almost think that's not enough. Even though, again, the matchup is bad. I know the Patriots have the third best pass defense, but they're still 18th in yards allowed per pass attempt. The adjusted fantasy points allowed to the position is okay. I'm just looking it up now. It's mid-tier. It's league average, but it's not absolutely stay away from them. I think we're still we're not opponent adjusting these numbers enough that the Patriots have played, I still think Josh Allen is just a fantastic play. If you're asking me if I had 5 lineups, I still want to jam in Josh Allen to 4 out of 5. If I knew nothing about the rest of the lineup, I knew nothing about the tournament I was playing, and I just had 5 lineups straight up, I want Josh Allen in 4 of them.
Yeah, and we're on the same page. I mean, that's about how much Josh Allen. I'm anticipating that I'll get somewhere around 80%. Of course, I mean, if you full fade him, and I'd be, I think, more willing to do that in a low dollar kind of, like if you're doing, like I said, a $3 entry, 20 max. I think it's more reasonable to, and it all depends on your bankroll, obviously. But if you're not risking that much of your bankroll, then if Josh Allen gets hurt, you're going to be in a really great spot, or just has a really bad game, you're going to be in a great spot. So it's something that you could consider doing, but it's obviously not what I'm doing. I think he's probably the safest play on the entire slate.
Now, we did get a super chat, John. Appreciate the super chat and all you guys hanging out, asking if JJ Taylor is active. He is inactive. He was not elevated from the practice squad. So behind Damian Harris tonight, it's going to be Pierre Strong. Kevin Harris there as well, if I'm correct. Yep. 2 rookies. And gosh, I still think this is a situation where they would like to give Ramondre Stevenson 25 opportunities and just have spellbacks with Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris, maybe getting a total of 10 opportunities. We'll get to the running backs in just a minute, but finishing out Josh Allen, look, I think you have to have some consideration for not only the rest of your lineup, but the context and the contest in which you're playing. But Josh Allen is a safer play to me than Ramondre Stevenson by a large amount, and I am trying to get the salary to get there. I think the ownership, the expected ownership, especially at the flex position on DraftKings, is extremely reasonable. He's actually positive leverage there. We're going to play a ton of him tonight. Find ways to get to Josh Allen. It's just really would surprise me if he's not in the optimal. Anything to add before we move on to this running back position?
No, I think we're on the same page.
Alrighty, let's go on to running back, which is a bit more complicated for this Buffalo Bills team. First of all, they don't run that often, especially in the valuable places like near the goal line. They're just such a pass-heavy team, and pass rate over expectation. They continue to be top 3 in the NFL. Devin Singletary still clearly the guy, and the salary's like it. He's $7K, while James Cook is down at $3,600 on DraftKings. Nyheim Hines is $3K. How much? I'll say it this way. Do you want to prioritize Devin Singletary on this slate at all? Because he does look like he has some solid leverage in our tools today.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of trust the tools sometimes. And I think that this is one of those times that, it's, you don't love clicking the name Devin Singletary, right? Like it's a tough matchup. He doesn't get quite enough volume. But as you said, we've got some positive leverage on Singletary. We've got him at 6.2% ownership in the captain spot. That's a little bit over owned. We've got him optimal 4.9% of the time. But then in the util spot, he looks pretty good. 29% projected ownership, 32.4% chance of being optimal. The price is right. I mean, 7,000, that's very playable for a guy like Devin Singletary, who is a pretty clear RB1 on the Bills. I don't see myself taking a major stand. My guess is if I do, I'll end up slightly under the field on Devin Singletary. I'm still working on my lineups, but my guess would be that I end up a little bit under the field on Devin Singletary, but I'm going to try to have at least 20%, of Devin Singletary. I think that he's a guy that certainly could put up a big game.
Yeah. Devin Singletary, I'm trying to look up some of his stats here because he has had games where his expected fantasy points, his opportunity value, his situations in which he's gotten the ball has been up there with some of the elite backs. I believe it was that game against Miami all the way back in week 3 where he got the best opportunity value of the season. Since then, obviously we've had some turnover at this position for the team. We're still talking about a player who's approaching an 80% snap share, had 14 carries, ran 25 routes, only saw 1 target though. If you're going to tell me I can get access to 15 opportunities on the Buffalo Bills for just $7K, I find that appealing, just fundamentally. The value of those touches aren't the best for Singletary, but I still feel like he's generally underrated, and his per-touch efficiency isn't so bad this year. He's the best on the roster. So I actually think I am going to be quite over the field. I do think that James Cook and Nyheim Hines are interesting large field plays. How are you feeling about either of them?
Yeah, I see it the same way. So James Cook in particular is 2 weeks ago, he rushed 11 times for 86 yards. I thought that he was going to come in the next week and like he earned himself a bigger role. Clearly, is what I was thinking. They're going to play more of him. And then, of course, the next game he has 2 carries for 4 yards. He was targeted, I think 5 times in the last game for the Patriots. So they are still using him some. It really all comes down to ownership. And where do we have James Cook's ownership? We've got him at 8% projected ownership. I think that's a reasonable number. I think I might try to get a little bit above 8% on James Cook, but I honestly don't think it's far off from where he should be. He's had some opportunities. The price is right. 8% seems about right. I think I'm probably going to come out on top of it, but honestly, I don't hate that 8% projected ownership. And then Nyheim Hines is, so far, it kind of seems like they're mostly just using him as a special teamer. Like he just has not been getting many snaps on offense, which not what I anticipated at all coming in. I thought that they were going to use him as that third down back, and he was going to be really interesting. I played a ton of him on Thanksgiving. I was like, the field is reading this way wrong. They just didn't, he's just been, then he needs to get his used to the offense a little bit, and then they're going to start playing him, and this might be the time. And then, of course, he was barely played at all. So that did not go well for me. I think, though, again, at 4% ownership, I'm willing to gamble on they want to use him in the offense more than they have. He has another week of practice under his belt. He's been with the team long enough that, the narrative isn't as strong as it would have been in like his second game, but I still think there's a chance that they ramp his usage up at some point. So at 4% ownership, $3,000 price tag, I do have some interest in Nyheim Hines. How do you read that situation? Do you like either of these guys?
Not particularly. Look, if you're trying to take down the largest field tournaments, you're going to have to make some off the wall calls.
Yeah.
So playing a player attached to Josh Allen is never completely irrational, even on a night like tonight. But I will say we're talking about a player in Nyheim Hines who had a sub 10% snap share last week.
Yeah.
It was nearly sub 5%.
Every week that he's been on the Bills, he's gotten just a handful of snaps generally.
0 targets. He hasn't had more than 1 target since week 9 in a game.
Yeah.
So it really is scraping the bottom of the barrel for me. And even James Cook, you're still asking for about 17 to 30% in terms of snap share and 10 to 15, maybe 20% route rate. That would be ideal. The one thing that I want to see is possibly noise or signal. Since week 9, here are James Cook's target totals in each game: 4, 0, 2, 5. If we have another game where he's above 3 targets, I'm at the point where, okay, this is a part of their game plan, trying to get James Cook his touches through the air. I'm not quite there yet, but if you wanted to say, okay, this is going to happen, maybe he has another 5-target game, then he's probably a good play at his price. If you're just asking me what does he look like from a median projection compared to salary-based expectations, both of these players, honestly, are kind of meh. Anything else on the running back position? We can hit the receivers who obviously have more upside playing with Josh Allen.
Yeah, no, I think we are on the same page. We can move on.
All righty. Stefon Diggs, pretty darn good at football. He's 11-6. He's got a positive leverage score in the flex today. Honestly, Stefon Diggs, even though the matchup is tough, in tournaments, seems like a great play.
Is Stefon Diggs ever not a great play? I mean, he's a pretty clear wide receiver 1 on the best, maybe one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. I think that he is one of the safer plays you can find out there. He almost finally failed last week. That was looking pretty rough for a little while, but finally got there with a touchdown at the end. Yeah, he looks great, particularly in the flex. So in the captain spot, we actually have Stefon Diggs a little bit over-owned at 12% projected ownership, 8% chance of being optimal. In the util, we've got him at 43% ownership, 44% chance of being optimal. So slight positive leverage. But honestly, I think you can play Stefon Diggs anywhere. He'll have those games. Even against the Patriots, he could certainly go for 120 yards on 10 catches and 2 touchdowns and just absolutely destroy the entire slate. So yeah, if you can play Stefon Diggs wherever you want to. He does have failures within his range of outcomes, but I think that he's one of the more likely players on this slate to put up 20 plus fantasy points.
Look, I'm not saying that every single time he steps out onto the field, I believe he's going to have 20 fantasy points. But what we mean by when isn't Diggs a good play, especially with Allen as his quarterback, what we mean is we can always explain the way that Diggs gets to 25, even more fantasy points in an outing.
Yep.
He can do it with volume. He can do it with efficiency. He's just one of the best receivers in the league with the second highest target total this season, fifth highest air yards, and expected fantasy points per game. He's number 4 in the NFL. Based on your scoring settings, Diggs is number 1 among wide receivers in fantasy points per game this season. He's real good. He's real good. But there's also Gabe Davis. There's also the salary considerations. Talk to me about Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie, because they're going to be relied on a lot. I guess if you want to throw Dawson Knox in here, that's okay, because we're going to get to the tight ends in a minute, because these are all tertiary options compared to Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe Davis, I think most people would call him the wide receiver 2 on the Bills. He has played, he's had one game. What's his lowest snap share? In games that he's been active, his lowest snap share has been 84%. He's just out on the field constantly, and he's always live to have, we've seen him, 99-yard touchdown, something ridiculous. He's always live for those long bomb touchdowns. So I love Gabe Davis in a game that could be, low scoring. Gabe Davis could just break the slate with one play and be, the optimal captain. So I think Gabe Davis looks like a great play. He doesn't have many of those great games. He's been a little bit of a disappointment overall this year because he's not really a PPR monster, but certainly 100 yards and a touchdown within Gabe Davis's range of outcomes, and you can save some salary on him. Coming in at just 8,000. The price looks about right. And then I'm pulling up our tools. We got Gabe Davis at 5.5% projected ownership in the captain spot, 4.9% chance of being optimal. So very slightly negative leverage there. And then the util, 27.4% chance projected ownership, and then 28.3% chance of being optimal. So slight positive leverage there. Honestly, the field seems to have it about right. The field's playing him 33% of the time. I might even get above that on Gabe Davis and just hope that this is one of his big breakout games. But, our tools tell us that 33% is about right.
Davis is one of these players that just breaks me, because everything that I know and the information that I pull in for football and DFS, he doesn't look good. And then he just defies all these important metrics and just has fantastic, fantastic performances seemingly out of nowhere. Part of that is the quarterback he plays with, the offense he plays within, the scheme for him. As you said, he can take, we've seen it, like 3 targets, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He can have those types of performances, and not every player who gets 3 targets in a game can have those types of performances. One of the ways he gets there, his average target distance or average depth of target, whatever you want to call it, 15.6 yards. That's number 3 among all wide receivers. And the quality of his targets, his target quality rating, according to playerprofiler.com, is second best in the NFL. Was it his expected fantasy points? His opportunity value is outside the top 45 wide receivers. He's 78th among wide receivers in targets per route run. And he still has over a dozen fantasy points per game this season, depending on the scoring platform you're looking at. He's a good player on a good offense that doesn't need a whole lot of volume. He's an efficiency play. And if you want to say he's not efficient tonight because of the defense he's playing, you can also do that. But I get why he's an interesting asset for you. What about Isaiah McKenzie? I feel like it's 6,800. Isaiah McKenzie has a really interesting median projection, just shy of Gabriel Davis, to the point where I almost want to play him, but our tools are kind of iffy on McKenzie tonight.
Yeah, I mean, McKenzie looks okay at 6,800. A little bit overowned in the captain spot, 2.8% projected ownership, 2.4% chance of being optimal, and a little bit overowned in the util, 18.7% projected ownership, 16.4% chance of being optimal. So he looks a little bit overowned in both places. He just had that monster game on Thanksgiving. I'm a little bit concerned that people are going to be chasing that game a little bit because, everybody was watching football on Thanksgiving. Everybody just saw McKenzie have this huge game. We're still projecting for fairly low ownership, but wouldn't really surprise me if he gets steamed a little bit, which is my biggest concern, is that people just saw that. They want to play Isaiah McKenzie now. The price is enough that I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he gets steamed, because his price is higher than it has been in the past, but I still suspect that the field gets there in a little bit more often than they should. So I'm fine with McKenzie, but I think if I'm going to play one of them, I'd prefer to play Gabe Davis. I think I'm likely to go over the field on Gabe Davis, and at what I'm expecting McKenzie's ownership to be at, I would guess I'm going to be a little bit under.
I think that's fair enough. Just need to point out that the last time Isaiah McKenzie faced a New England team, caught, this was last year, he caught 6 targets for 77 yards. And according to Next Gen Stats, this is really cool. He had 76 targets for 77 yards after going in shift motion, which is the second most receptions in a game since 2016. So basically, they use McKenzie all over the field as a gadget player. He actually finished with 11 receptions for 125 yards and a touchdown. So if New England doesn't adjust to that, I wonder if they end up using McKenzie all over the field again. I'm not saying that the same narrative that played out last year is going to happen, but it's worth pointing out that it did happen not too long ago. Got some super chats here. Jay, thank you for the super chat. He's asking for a 5-1 Patriot build with Stevenson at captain. 5-1 build with Stevenson at captain and then a Bills stack. So it's actually 5-1 Bills. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. I make those kinds of lineups all the time. I'm likely to have some of those today. Yeah, certainly a fine kind of build.
And then Connor, thank you for the super chat as well, my friend. Would you consider playing Gabe Davis over Ramondre Stevenson if Josh Allen is your captain in a small field GPP?
Small field GPP. It's a little bit, so I would like it for a large field GPP. For a small field GPP, if you have enough salary to play Stevenson, I just think he's so much safer. Kind of depends on how small, but in general, I'd rather play in a small field GPP. I'd rather play Stevenson there. Do you think the same thing, Matt?
That's how I'm leaning as well. I'm not saying you can't do it, because in a tournament, obviously you need to be unique, and getting unique on a 1-game slate is hard. And going to the slightly suboptimal player is one way to be unique. But I do think in a smaller field GPP, you probably just go with the guaranteed opportunity of Stevenson and get contrarian elsewhere.
Yeah, it's something that I do. I like the idea for a large field GPP. Just for the record, it's just talking small field GPP. I'm a little bit more likely to want to go closer to optimal. And if you're just pivoting directly from Stevenson to Gabe Davis, you could do that, but then maybe pivot up somewhere else to get to a better projected player in a different spot in your lineup.
Totally agree. Let's quickly hit Khalil Shakir, John Brown, and then let's also talk about these tight ends, Dawson Knox, and then everybody else, right? These are all, as I said, everyone beyond Stephon Diggs. I don't even have secondary options. Maybe the running backs. These are all tertiary options comparatively.
Yeah, so Dawson Knox certainly interesting. Only has 2 touchdowns this year. And in last year, he had like 71 total targets and had 9 touchdowns. I read about this in Mark. I don't remember the exact stat, but he only has 2 touchdowns this year on like 50 targets. So just the touchdown negative regression has come for Dawson Knox. He was, getting too many touchdowns, I think, per target last year. But I do think that we could see a game where he, touchdowns are certainly within his range of outcomes. He's a tight end. Now we don't have to worry about the backup tight end at all. Not that he was a huge concern anyway for Dawson Knox, but he'll be out there. He's had 42 targets so far through 10 games. So getting just over 4 targets per game. He's certainly got a spike week within his range of outcomes. I think Dawson Knox is a fine play. What do we have his ownership at? That's what it really comes down to for me. And we've got him at 18% projected. We've got him a little bit overowned. So 18% projected ownership in the util with a 16% chance of being optimal, 2.7% projected ownership in the captain spot, 2.5% chance of being optimal. So a little bit overowned in both spots, but honestly, I think the field, it's about right. He's very slightly negative leverage. I think that he's a fine play.
Yeah, all of these players are essentially in large field tournament situations where I'm trying to get to Josh Allen stacks. I'm fine adding these players on.
Yep.
Even Dawson Knox, I feel like in a vacuum isn't a great play. I'm fine stacking him up with Josh Allen. In fact, I have a rule in my optimizer where if Josh Allen is the captain, you're just going to boost all of these players naturally. And it would happen just if I just let it go. But I just want to make sure that those are the situations where I do play Dawson Knox or these other options here. Again, I'm a little higher on Isaiah McKenzie. I think there's just a little more upside than our tools necessarily say, but that's just the choice I'm making. Again, if you just trust our tools, probably goes very well for you most nights. Eric with the super chat. JJ Taylor was not elevated from the practice squad, so we'll just let you guys know there. Maybe we'll get a bunch of likes and a bunch of super chats about JJ Taylor. I'm always down to talk about JJ Taylor and his inability to score fantasy points tonight because he didn't get elevated from the practice squad. No, we appreciate it, Eric. It's just we actually had another super chat earlier about the same exact thing. Is that it for the Buffalo Bills? We can obviously wrap around at the very end, but I think we covered this team pretty well. John Brown.
Okay. Let me. Okay. So yeah, I just want to come back to the John Brown thing. I do still think Khalil Shakir is interesting at. So on I guess I'm looking at FanDuel. We've got him at 2.2% projected ownership. On DraftKings, we've got Khalil Shakir. I gotta find him here. Where do we have Shakir's ownership? Guessing it's not going to be high, but I want to find the actual number. Why am I not finding him? Okay, we've got Khalil Shakir, 7.2% projected ownership.
Yeah.
That's actually higher than I expected him to be. So I like him better on FanDuel than DraftKings. But we have slight negative leverage on Shakir on DraftKings. We got 7.2% ownership, 5.4% chance of being optimal. I think I'm still going to play him. I think I'm going to be above the field on Shakir just because of the price tag and because he did absolutely nothing in the last game. And we've got lots of questions. I have multiple DMs today about John Brown. Are you going to play John Brown today? I think people see that John Brown is active and want to play him. And I think that I'd be more inclined to assume that Khalil Shakir keeps the role that he had last week, was he played over 40% of snaps last week. We've seen him have the week that I wasn't even thinking about playing him, and then you brought him up, and I played him at the last minute, and then he scored a touchdown like immediately, a long touchdown immediately in that game. So thank you for that. But I still think that is within his range of outcomes. I think that he's going to be out on the field at low ownership at a low salary. So I do have interest in coming up over the field on Khalil Shakir. He is, you might call him a Neil's nobody.
Oh, let's go. Our first Neil's nobody of the night. John Brown is just not in my player pool personally, but I'm not playing the largest fields. You might have him in a couple lineups, I bet.
Yeah, a couple. I'm not going to have a ton of John Brown because I really don't think that he's going to be part of the game plan unless it's like a blowout or an injury. But we don't really know. We don't know what the Bills are planning to do here, and he does know the playbook. But yeah, we're on the same page that John Brown is not somebody that we are targeting here.
All right. That covers it for the Bills. Of course, we'll hit it at the very, the very end as well. But I do want to tell you about our presenting sponsor today, No House Advantage. Awesome place to play. So many ways to play over there. And of course, not only do we have an offer for you at Stokastic, they've got an awesome first match deposit bonus up to $50. And you can also get tools that can help you take down all the big prizes they have available over at No House Advantage. Right now, actually this Thursday night contest, the $15 entry TNF Showdown contest with 10K to first at 58% full. Little bit of overlay, not as much as we sometimes see. The $5 entry 2K play action, still just 45% full. Really, really exciting time, and they're helping you out there with that little bit of overlay. If you're not interested in doing those contests, again, which we have tools to help you over at stokastic.com to take you down, they have the new Versus the House tool as well, which is more like the traditional prop betting, but you can get 20x your entry fee if you take down 5 correct overs or unders. They've got all sorts of sports, NBA, NHL, MLB when it comes back, NBA. Did I say NBA? Yes, they've got NBA. Great time to get into the action over at No House Advantage. Use the link in the video description below. And Jordan, if you want to throw that NHA link in chat as well, we'll do that for you guys as well. All right. The New England Patriots. Let's just say their quarterback is projected for less points than their opponents. What are we doing? What are we doing with Mac Jones? Talk to me about the fact that he's a quarterback on a 1-game slate, and what are you doing with this player who it's kind of expensive just to get to 14, 15 fantasy points as a median projection?
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons that I love the single game tool more than just a straight projection, because you look at the projection and I just crunch out, I'm not going to get much Mac Jones at all. He doesn't project well point per dollar at all, but I think that the single game tool is a little bit more telling. So we look at Mac Jones, not a great projection, but then in the actual simulations, we run 10,000 simulations, not me, but the team runs 10,000 simulations and gives us the results. We have Mac Jones at 6.2% projected ownership in the captain spot, 5.6% chance of being optimal. So a slight negative leverage there. But then in the util spot, we actually have positive leverage on Mac Jones. 34% projected ownership, 35% chance of being off. So very slight positive leverage. I think that he's a totally fine play. And, we've heard a lot of people predicting a win for New England here. I don't think that it's out of the range of outcomes. I don't think it's likely. It's a tough matchup for Mac Jones, but he could be, even if they or get behind a little bit, they're going to need to be throwing the ball. As you said, he's a quarterback on a 1-game slate. I'm going to try to be close to the field on Mac Jones, I think.
And it's not that hard to do, right?
Yeah.
Because, again, quarterback, only 39 to 45% of the field is going to play him tonight. The Bills are good defensively. In adjusted fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position, they're top 10, but they're only 10th. They're not first like they used to be. They're getting healthier in the secondary. Still don't have Von Miller. And ultimately, I do think that when you look at this player in Mac Jones, the way that the Patriots pull off the upset, as you were saying, is by Mac Jones overperforming his expectation. I can build a narrative where that happens. I just think it is still low probability. But if you are building lineups that have that narrative in mind, I think you have to boost him a little bit, especially if you're using an optimizer and you can just add that thumbs up button. In total leverage, which means the added flex and captain combined optimal lineup percentage and comparing that to combined ownership, he is slightly positive, which means that he's definitely in the you can play him range, or you can even build some contrarian lineups with him as the captain for sure. How about the running game, though? It's Ramondre Stevenson with a huge opportunity here, and then a bunch of nobodies in Strong and Kevin Harris. What are you doing with Ramondre? Is he the best player on the slate, just from a value standpoint?
Yeah, he's certainly up there. I think he was the title of the article that I wrote today was Ramondre Stevenson. He's also like of the Patriots, he's the clear best option, right? Like so the Bills, you've got Allen, you've got Diggs, and then you've got interesting options in Isaiah McKenzie and Gabe Davis and some of these other guys. On the Patriots, it's pretty clearly Ramondre Stevenson number one. So and you have to have at least one player from each team. He's going to be popular, but he deserves to be popular. As we've talked about, he gets passing plays designed for him. He's also going to be that escape valve if Mac Jones runs into some trouble, and then he'll have 10 to 15 carries on top of that. So Ramondre Stevenson looks great. He is the top play from the Patriots, I would say. Clearly the top projector. He actually projects very close to Josh Allen, which honestly kind of surprised me when I saw that. I thought there would be a bigger gap there, but they project very close to the same. He's going to get ownership. He deserves ownership. I should look at what our tools actually say, which is positive leverage in the util spot, negative leverage in the captain spot. We've got Stevenson coming in at 20% projected ownership in the captain spot, 15% chance of being optimal. Util spot, 50% projected ownership, 59% chance of being optimal. He looks like a great play.
I mean,
it's tough. It scares me. The matchup does scare me. Like I think that there are scenarios where he fails just because the Patriots aren't able to do much. But even if he does, what's a failure? Maybe 12, 14 points. That still might be optimal because you need a player from the Patriots. So I think that he looks great. I think I'm probably going to be close to the field. I guess we've got the field at about 70% overall. I'll probably be a little bit under the field on Stevenson, but I think he looks like a pretty great play.
What's really interesting is he's another one where I think I want to take chances at the all or nothing approach. I want to play him at the captain and then have a bunch of bills like the super chat earlier was talking about, or entirely fade him. I'm also seeing some info in chat. You guys are sharp pointing it out, but also some tweets here that Trent Brown is active and he's trying to play tonight, but he's not great either at the moment. So you're down 3 tackles possibly, and your center is also banged up. Yes, he's active, but
yeah,
look, offensive lines have tipping points. The best example we have ever seen, if you just want the eye test version of this, is the injuries to the Kansas City offensive line prior to their previous Super Bowl. At a certain tipping point with offensive lines, there's just not enough time to execute an offense. And if the Patriots can't execute their offense and they're running in, and Stevenson is just running into the back of his guards 17 times, and the only thing he can do is get a few dump off passes, and he's not efficient with that, it's going to be a bad time since 70% of the field is playing him. Risk of ruin is here. Risk of reward is also. Yep. Are you playing Strong or Harris at all? Are you going to be over the field? It's probably pretty easy to do so.
Yeah, so we have I'm again still have not done my DraftKings lineups. I'm working on FanDuel first, but I'm going to play some of each of them. I'm going to have I think Harris is my preferred play. I think that he's probably now working as the RB2. It's kind of flipped for me, and I look at our projections. Our projections have Harris a little bit higher than Pierre Strong, and I think that that's probably right. It's a little bit hard to read who's going to be the RB2, but I'm going to have some of them just because we just saw this with Benny Snell, right? We called it out as if Najee Harris goes down, Benny Snell is going to be the guy, or if there's garbage time, Benny Snell is going to be the guy. And then of course we had the Anthony McFarland wrinkle, which kind of looked like it was going to throw that off. And then, but then Benny Snell came in and scored a touchdown and paid it off anyway. So it worked out in the end. The Benny Snell call. I think that one of these guys could be the Benny Snell here. They're probably not likely to do much outside of oddball scenario. Either Stevenson gets injured, they could become a factor, or garbage time, which I think is certainly something that could happen on a slate like this. Of course, even if you're playing them, as we've talked about, the offensive line is pretty banged up. They're not in the best spot against this Bills defense with a banged up offensive line, but they're also very cheap. And, there are scenarios where these guys pay off their salary. So yeah, I'll have some. I'm not going to be jamming these guys in.
They're not quite at the level of Neil's nobody, but they're 200 and they have a chance. One of them, I think, has a chance of 5 to 8 opportunities. And we know that injury risk is always there for a running back that gets high usage. Guys, if you want access to all of the tools that we've been referencing this entire show, now is an awesome time to get into the action, because over at Stokastic, we are offering 3 days absolutely free for our entire NFL package. This is new users only, so people who have not joined the Stokastic ecosystem before, this is a way of opening the door a little bit, saying, this is what we got to offer. We think you'll enjoy it around here, because you get full access to everything we own. Can't give you Fantasy Cruncher. We get everything else. DFS projections, DFS ownership, 1v1 tools, lineup generators, top stacks tool, the boom bust, the leverage tools that we're always talking about as well. There is a risk-free link in the video description. Again, this is for our new users only, a way of saying, hey, we think you're going to like it around here. Come check it out. And if you hate it, again, free 99 is pretty good. How's that price for you, Neil?
I like the free 99 price tag. Yeah, it works really well, and it's a tool. The tools are pretty phenomenal. That's what all of us use here at Stokastic, and we've had a lot of success using them. So definitely recommend taking advantage of these deals when we get them.
I'd say a lot of success. How about this guy across the way with the beard and the hat, just taking down milli makers and huge 6-figure prizes, making it look routine over here. Again, with the tools from Stokastic, NFL 3 days free. You can get it in the link in the video description below. All right, let's hit the super chat here real quick, because they're asking, let's combine wide receiver and tight end for New England into one group here, because it's all a mess to me, Neil. Jonnu Smith or Kendrick Bourne for a single entry small field tournament, Jillian asks.
Jonnu Smith or Kendrick Bourne. My lean is Kendrick Bourne, but let me pull up some info. I feel like Kendrick Bourne is a little bit safer. In the last game, Kendrick Bourne played 69% of snaps. Jonnu Smith played 29%. In the week prior, Jonnu Smith played 54%, where Kendrick Bourne played 38%. So it flips. So it's so hard to get a read on this Patriots situation. We are assuming that Jacoby Myers is going to play more snaps, so maybe that cuts into Kendrick Bourne, but I still think that I lean Bourne. It's not a very strong lean, but and then sorry, what kind of contest do you say that's for?
Single entry, small field.
Small field. So we have, for the milli, we have Jonnu projected for 12% ownership. We've got Kendrick Bourne projected for 9% ownership. So that is another factor. I think I'm going to lean Kendrick Bourne, but it's a slight lean for me.
Okay. So now's a great time to talk about this passing offense. Obviously, if you're playing a bunch of lineups, you have to play players from this Patriots passing core. But if you look at weighted opportunity, which is air yards and target share combined into one usable metric, no player on this Patriots team gets 20% of the team's weighted opportunity. And the pass rate over expectation is already one of the lowest in the league, meaning based on situation, this team likes to run the ball even when most teams are choosing to pass. When you look at Jonnu Smith and Kendrick Bourne, you're talking about 8% versus 7% of one of the lowest volume offenses in neutral game scripts in the NFL. Lowest pass volume offense, I should say. This is a large field play, in my opinion. Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne, the answer for small field for me is neither. Hate to say it.
I think that's a reasonable take as well for small field.
All right, let's look at some of the more top of the board options. Obviously, Jakobi Meyers looks very good in our tools. Why don't we just start there? And then if anybody looks like a value to you, why don't you hit that? Because we're getting close here. Actually, we got some time. Talk to me about Jakobi Meyers, because he is one of the best looking players, especially at the flex position in our tools tonight.
Yeah, Jakobi Meyers is interesting because, so again, he played 29% of snaps in the last game for the Patriots. I'm assuming that he's going to be a full go. He was questionable coming into today, so maybe that's a foolish assumption, but he's at least going to, I would think, play more than he had played last week. He played 54% the week before. He played 95% the week before. I'm misreading this. So Jakobi Meyers had been a full go week 11, played very little last week. I think he's probably going to ramp up a little bit and play a little bit more. So Jakobi Meyers is still, the wide receiver one here for the Patriots. I think so. Looking at the ownership a little bit, we've got Devontae Parker at just 15% ownership. I'm going to be above the field on Devontae Parker. I thought he was interesting last week. I think he's still interesting at 15% ownership. Nelson Aguilar, I'm surprised we only have Nelson Aguilar at 12% projected ownership after he had a very good game on Thanksgiving. I think that the price is right there. I think Nelson Aguilar looks okay. Tyquan Thornton has not really had many opportunities since the Patriots bye week. They've seemed to have kind of gone away from Tyquan Thornton. He's just played 27% and 36% of snaps the past 2 weeks after he had been much higher than that before the Patriots bye week. But I could see them, he is an explosive player. It wouldn't be that shocking to me if they try to draw something up to, take advantage of his explosiveness in a game where they're probably going to have a tough time scoring. I could see them trying to get creative and get the ball to Tyquan Thornton. So a little bit of interest there. I guess you could call him a Neil's nobody as well. Somebody who's not going to get a ton of ownership. I think
I like that call, by the way. Thornton is a player who drafted way higher than most people realize. 18th pick of the second round. 6'2", 183. So he's a scrawny guy, but 100th percentile 40-yard dash. If you convert that to a speed score, which just combines his weight as well. 93rd percentile, according to playerprofiler.com. Elite burst. His best comp is Robbie Anderson, but he has very different draft capital than Robbie Anderson. And I still think this is a player who, in a showdown, in a one-game slate scenario, you can take bets on. Rookies take time to develop. Not all of them are the Chris Olaves and the Garrett Wilsons and the Justin Jeffersons. We're completely spoiled in the modern NFL how fast these wide receivers come on. Speedsters can take time to develop. I'm not saying it's going to happen against a quality Bills defense, but if he gets behind the defense for one big play, I could see him being optimal here. Again, if I'm looking at these weighted opportunity metrics, he's right there with Devontae Parker for that wide receiver 2 role, even if you just include because the air yards give him that extra boost.
It's interesting.
So how about Parker for you? Parker, and then break down like Aguilar or any other wide receiver you're getting to with any significance.
Yeah, so I would say Parker is my top option here. I think that, New England just acquired him this offseason. He has been a talented receiver throughout his career. He played 85% of snaps in the last game. I kind of see Parker as being probably the top dog here. I do actually like Parker at 15% ownership. Even if, Tyquan Thornton's getting some opportunity, he just has not been on the field as much. So I think that Parker is safer than Tyquan Thornton. I think Tyquan Thornton, we both like him as sort of a home run pick who's not going to get a ton of ownership. I think Devontae Parker likely to see more targets than Tyquan Thornton. So he's got the safer floor with the, PPR scoring and whatnot. So I would say Parker is probably my favorite receiver from the Patriots. Jakobi Meyers, obviously I think Jakobi Meyers is the wide receiver 1 if he's active. Like if he's playing a full snap share, I just am not that confident. Given the 29% snap share last week, followed up with being questionable coming in today, I'm not that confident that Jakobi Meyers is ready to play 60+% of snaps. So factoring that in, I've got Jakobi Meyers projected higher, but feel a little bit more comfortable with Devontae Parker. So factoring in ownership, it's probably Devontae Parker is my favorite of the bunch. It's a
Round
little
out the
bit.
Patriots for us here, just as we get to 10 past the hour. Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, the only other options. What are you doing there? And then we'll get to the defenses and kickers.
Yeah, so I think Hunter Henry is the pretty clear tight end one for the Patriots. Henry played 71% of snaps in the last game. He played 84% the week before. He just gets so much more of the snap share than Jonnu Smith and gets more targets than Jonnu Smith. I think Hunter Henry is a pretty great play at reasonable ownership. Jonnu Smith is interesting. Just played 29% of snaps in the last game. Has not been seeing a ton of targets so far this year. He's not somebody that I'm all that confident in. He's interesting as a relatively low owned play. We've got Jonnu Smith at, 12% ownership. That seems honestly not even that low owned. That's probably about where do we have him? Actually, let me, instead of just speaking without looking at the tools, let me look at the tools real quick. We've got Jonnu Smith at, all right, so we actually do have him a little bit under owned. 12% projected ownership, 14% chance of being optimal in the util spot, 1.6% projected ownership, 3% chance of being optimal in the captain spot. So I guess Jonnu Smith in our tools looks better than I would have given him credit for. Looks like we've got some positive leverage there. So maybe throw in some Jonnu Smith lineups. Hunter Henry actually has negative leverage in the util, 14% projected ownership, 11.5% chance of being optimal. In the captain spot, 1.4% ownership, 1.7% chance of being optimal. So looks a little bit better in the captain spot, but yeah, I don't know. It's it goes against my instincts a little bit because my instincts are Hunter Henry looks pretty good at relatively low ownership, and Jonnu Smith is going over owned, but that is not what the tools are telling me, and generally the tools know better than I do.
There you go. That is a good wrap up of the New England Patriots. We got 3 minutes until lock. The defenses and kickers are all excellent, excellent options. The highest, I think Nick Folk is a great play. I honestly think both defenses are absolutely in play. Just one kicker for most of my tournament lineups, but I do have some with two kickers, and we've seen sludge fest potential from these Thursday night games. You don't have to rank your favorites here, but between all four, two kickers and the defenses, rank them for us.
Yeah, so I think it's Tyler Bass, number one, as the kicker for the favorite, probably followed by Bills defense against this banged up offensive line for the Patriots, followed, by maybe the Patriots defense against Josh Allen, who has thrown 11 interceptions this year. But honestly, they all project very well point per dollar. I think they're all great plays here.
On DraftKings, every single defense and kicker, whether captain or not, has a positive leverage, except for the Bills defense at captain. I don't know why people are seemingly getting there and they're super contrarian lineups. But guys, these are very, very interesting mid-tier salary plays. We've seen this throughout Showdown slate history, but particularly in 2022. Do not be afraid to feel like you're going a little overboard in the defense and kicker category. That's why we saved the very best for last, because these do often look like some of the highest leverage plays from a tournament standpoint on the entire slate. Anything else to add as we get into the final moments before lock here? We're at less than 2 minutes to lock right now, Neil.
No, I think that we have covered it fairly well. I am now just realizing I need to get my lineups, and I thought we had until 7:20. So I am crunching here quickly. I feel like we've covered it fairly well.
Wait. Oh, is it? No, this.
No, you were correct.
Oh,
yeah, you were correct.
We are right. I almost
I was
there. No, we're almost there. We are at 1 minute. Well, while you finish up your lineups, because I know you are a beast at this final minute analysis, you should follow this man at PlayerQDFS, taking the time out of his professional process to give you guys all of the information. So give him a follow on the Twitter. Make sure to like the video as well. Also helps me if you give me a follow at Draftaholic. Give Jordan Klein, producer Jordan behind the glass, a follow as well at Jordan Klein. The best in the biz, truly. We appreciate you guys so much. Thanks to our sponsor, No House Advantage. Let's go win some money tonight, Stokastic crew, for Neil And Jordan, oh wait, I gotta tell you guys about some awesome stuff. Sorry, Jordan, we got The Process at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow. NBA, NFL strategy shows at 10 and 11. Neil will be back for the NFL one. We got the NFL, NBA, NHA shows at 3 and 3:30, and the NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock starting at 4:45 Eastern Time. A packed Friday over at Stokastic. Check us out. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. And we will see you guys soon. Let's win the money.